Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Faris.
This is Phil Faris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. My guest today is Shawna Kaminski. Shawna has been a fitness professional in the industry for over 30 years. She has a Bachelor of Kinesiology and a Bachelor of Education, and too many certifications to count. She is a teacher at heart, having taught school for 20 years. She's a #1 best-selling author of Lose Your Menopause Belly, available on Amazon. She's owned a small group training studio and multiple fitness boot camps. She helps thousands of online fitness clients worldwide for their fitness and coaching program. She's appeared on national TV as a fitness expert, authored articles in numerous publications, and created curriculum for international fitness businesses. Shawna is in her early 50s, has 2 children, and a one-eyed rescue dog. Shawna, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've been a fan of yours for some time now.
Wow, it's just such a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Phil.
Well, now, Shawna, you've had a very long and diversified career in fitness. Can you talk about the types of people that you work with now and the challenges they're facing?
Well, typically, my most common client and the woman that I love to work with is over 40, experiencing some frustration with weight gain that most women feel is age and hormone related. So I love to help women, just by giving simple lifestyle hacks and tips for women over 40, over 50, even over 60. And honestly, Phil, I am so interested to see that some of the people that are reaching out to me are in their 70s and 80s. So I just love that even older women are reaching out to me for help. And I never actually thought that my age would be one of my biggest assets in the fitness industry, but apparently it is.
Well, I guess that they want someone that can understand and relate to some of the issues that they're dealing with and that they perhaps feel is outside of their control.
Exactly. And a lot of, 30, 20 and 30 something coaches and trainers, while they might be fantastic, having experience with, changing hormones and living successfully, I would say, with through some of the changes is, respected by women more so than a 20 something that, has a 6-pack because they were born to the right parents and have, some healthy eating habits. But it's like, okay, let's talk to you in 30 years. Let's see how you're doing then.
And there's also, I think, kind of a shorthand that you can go through because, if I have an issue or if a woman has an issue, she has to explain an awful lot about what she's
Correct.
going through to someone that's never been there.
Exactly.
And they don't want to spend that much time explaining why they feel how they feel. They want someone, I get it. And they
Exactly. Go, oh. Yes. Yeah. It's just, there's a lot of unspoken that, it's not like we should never assume anything, but if you're a mom and you're speaking to another mom, it's just like, okay, well, we know a lot of common experiences that don't have to be explained.
Absolutely. Now, in that age group of the over 40 and the 50 on up, one of the most common issues I hear from women, and they talk about menopause belly. Now,
correct.
Why is it such an issue for women once they hit that certain age? Why does it become such a big obstacle for them?
Well, the thing is that a lot of people think that, at the magic age of 40 or 42, that, when the calendar year turns over, that your body just magically starts to, gain weight around the middle. But there's a lot of things going on that aren't necessarily related to, say, menopause, because if we look at men in, that age category, we can't say that men have the svelte waistline that they did when they were 30. So it's not necessarily a female thing, although there are female hormones that play into it. But the fact is that, and this is actually very good news, is that a lot of women, men as well, but I'm going to speak mostly to women, is that a lot of times they just become increasingly sedentary between between maybe 30 and 40 or 45, and they might not even notice it. For example, if a woman is a mom, young moms are just up and about and chasing babies and then, taking kids to sports. And there's just a lot of incidental exercise where you're just up and about a lot more. But as we age, we tend to become a lot more sedentary. And especially if we're not doing, appropriate exercise, it's reflected in our body. And if we're lucky enough to be the same weight at age, say, 42 as we were at the age of 32, it's unlikely that we're the same body composition. And so what happens is we often have a shift in body composition where we have a little bit higher fat percentage, a little bit lower lean muscle tone. And with that, we have a lower metabolic rate because muscle is metabolically active. So we can actually eat more at rest when we have more muscle on our frame. So that's the first thing, is that our body composition tends to shift because we become a little bit more sedentary. And as well, our hormones are such that most times, when we're younger in our teens, 20s, we tend to gain weight around our breasts and our hips. And then as we age, our body tends to store fat a little more in our middle. So that can be a little bit more hormonally related, but it can totally be addressed through nutrition and exercise. So that's the great news.
Okay, so what are some specific strategies women can use to start to say, okay, I'm not happy with my muffin top or my jelly belly, whatever they call it, because it's usually a disparaging comment that they can't avoid the fact that they have this weight around the middle, so they talk about it, and so they finally say, I want to do something about it.
Right.
What are some of the things they can do that they can actually apply? You talk about life hacks. What would be some life hacks they could use that would help them overcome the issues that have come up over the years?
Well, I'm going to talk about two things that I'd prefer them not to do. And the first go-to is to diet. So most people think, you know what, I'm just going to address this with diet. And while I feel that nutrition is one of the keys to addressing that menopause belly, going on a diet per se is not the answer. Because what a diet typically means is that we start it and we stop it. And most women, many women, by the time they get to that point, they've been chronic dieters and they're actually killing their metabolism even further, especially when it's like we never go on a diet where we're adding calories, where we're adding food. Actually, when I work with my clients, Phil, that's my goal, is that over the course of working with me, we are not going to be more restrictive. We're actually going to be adding more food on your plate because we're going to be raising your metabolism. So the first mistake that people make is typically they're going to say, you know what, I am just going to starve this menopause belly off. And your body says, no way. Because what happens is it usually causes more stress. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol is that hormone that increases belly fat, and it just becomes this vicious cycle. And there's a lot of women that come to me that, might be thinner in their limbs, like their arms and legs, and they're working really hard, but their belly is not going anywhere. And so, we have to stop the dieting. We have to start to feed our bodies with whole and healthy foods. And, there's a very strategic way to do that. The second thing that I prefer that women don't do is just go directly to the treadmill or directly to steady state cardio, because that also can elicit a cortisol response. And so while it can address cardiovascular fitness, you might become more fit. And honestly, if it takes you to your happy place to run a marathon or to do that steady state cardio, then that's fine to do it. But we need to manage expectations that will not give you the body or belly of your dreams. So we would have to supplement that or offset that with, the proper nutrition or possibly some resistance training to offset muscle wasting. So the two things that I suggest not to do would be to go on a, calorie restricted diet, or to do, steady state cardio. And I mean, 60 minutes or more of, low intensity plodding along type cardio, because that does nothing to, even if you lose weight, you tend to just be a skinnier version of your former fat self. The mirror does not reflect the, sexy image that you're hoping to gain from that. So I want to avoid disappointment with women when they, try those methods. So those are the things that I would prefer people not to do. The things that women need to do is, I like to think of fitness as like a chair or a table with 4 legs. We need to address nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress. And women over 40 in particular, we're the caregivers of the world. We're taking care of everybody else and not ourselves. So one thing that's very easy, well, not easy, but simple, is that lots of us are just sleep deprived. And when we're sleep deprived, that also elevates cortisol. So we need to take care of our sleep. We need to take care of our stress, because again, stress elevates cortisol. So, we're seeing a theme here where a lot of women over 40, over 50, we've got those elevated stress levels, elevated cortisol levels. So we need to address our cortisol. The third leg of the table is exercise. So I would definitely say, and I know that you would agree, that exercise is the fountain of youth, but we need to be doing the correct kind of exercise. Doesn't need to be marathon type exercise where it lasts all day. It can be something simple that you could do in your living room with your own body weight, but it just has to be of the correct intensity and, enough that it's going to stimulate muscle growth or muscle toning. And the fourth leg of the table is nutrition. And the majority of women that I work with and that I talk to, they're either insulin resistant, where their body cannot handle insulin, or they're insulin sensitive, or they just have, they say, oh, I think I'm eating well, but what they're eating, even if they're not, hopefully they're not dieting, they're not eating the right quantities of food. A lot of times we can shift the composition of the food to shift body composition without even decreasing the amount of calories. So a simple hack would be to increase protein, decrease fat, and I'm not saying go on a low-fat diet, and then include carbs, because we're all on this, carbs are evil, fats are healthy, and yes, fats are healthy, but there's this whole keto phase right now. Everybody's, it's like that's the latest fad is keto. But people are mixing it up because they're getting the idea that, hey, keto is great, so I'm going to eat a lot of fat. But if you're going to eat a lot of fat, it means you have to really reduce your carbs. And so all the proportions are all mixed up. So we need to balance those macros. So that was a mouthful.
Yeah, to help my simple mind get my hands around those, if I'm looking at a plate,
yep,
what should it look like if it's balanced? And there's the proper food and nutrition on.
Well, I usually use the palm as a great example, and we can fill our plate that way. And it really works well because the size of your palm is about the size, it's going to indicate you're going to have a bigger palm than I will. So when I say, the hand without the fingers, that should probably be about my serving size of protein. If I put 2 hands together, that should be the serving size of fibrous carbohydrates. And people don't seem to think that vegetables are carbs, and they are. They're low carb, but we need those fibrous carbs. If I make a fist, that should be about the size of, say, starchy carbs, whether that's, a potato or rice. So it's much smaller than the 2 hands put together of the fibrous carbs. And then if I look at the tip of my thumb, that's going to be about how much fat I'm going to need for that amount of food on the plate. And that would be, say, my dinner. So that gives, I think moderation is my middle name because I I want to provide women with sustainable, long-term, habits that we're not just going to do for a week or 6 weeks, and then they'll say, throw their hands up, thank God that's done. Let's call for pizza. Right?
Right.
Like I feel like there's room for every kind of eating. It's your birthday, you should have a piece of birthday cake. But you know what? Let's get back to healthy eating tomorrow. It's actually healthy for you to have a piece of birthday cake on your birthday. Like, we shouldn't be living in a world of deprivation, but we also can't be living in a world of let's have birthday cake every day.
Absolutely. Now, I want to get 2 points kind of clarified. First, I want to go back to the kind of the good carb, bad carb, and a lot of it's marketing stuff. But you should have carbs. So what are the different types? You talked about the fibrous types and then the starchy types. So they both serve a purpose.
Correct.
Can you explain what they are and how they affect our nutrition and our energy level throughout the day?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that as women age, we get less, our carb sensitivity and our ability to handle carbs decreases. So the quality of carbohydrates that we eat in our 40s, 50s, and 60s becomes paramount. Whereas in our 20s, we could eat straight up jelly beans and still be able to, process and manage. And if you talk to any woman over 40 who has had, a couple, like maybe, I don't want to say a binge weekend, but had a weekend where, say, you didn't really pay attention to what you're eating, you had lots of carbs and maybe a glass of wine or two, and so you're really kind of off your game. In our 20s, it would take us 2 to 3 days to kind of get back to normal, where it's like, okay, we're going to hold a little bit of water. We're going to feel a bit bloated. Okay, by Wednesday, we're feeling good. Nowadays, and I'm saying that for myself because I'm 55, if, women have that kind of weekend, it takes a week, maybe 2 weeks to kind of get back to where we were. And it's because our body has, we're just not able to process low quality carbohydrates in the same way. We're much more insulin resistant. So carbohydrates, a sugar is a sugar, whether it's a jelly bean or broccoli. It's just like chemically, that's what it is. But I mean, jelly bean has no nutrition and broccoli does. And so our body needs a certain amount of carbohydrates. We need those fibrous carbohydrates because they provide bulk. They fill us up. They provide the micronutrients as well as, just our brain needs carbohydrate for brain function. So, that's why I'm not a super big fan, especially for women, of the keto diet. I felt dumb as a stump when I tried it. Honestly, I did. I just couldn't even think straight. And I mean, that's the thing about the keto diet. You have a ton of fat, but you have probably under 50 grams of carbs a day, which is like minuscule. And then if you go over those carbohydrates, then you're not burning ketones. And that's the key of the keto diet.
Right.
But any case, our body, so there's starchy carbohydrates and then there's more fibrous carbohydrates. And our body needs, we need both. A lot of people think, well, I shouldn't be eating gluten. Well, guess what? Not everybody is celiac. Not everybody is gluten intolerant. If you find that you're bloated and, you have, a brain fog and you're not feeling well after having gluten, then it's something you probably should reduce. But a lot of people just go to the gluten-free aisle and say, well, I don't think I should have gluten, so I'm going to have all these gluten-free options. But they tend to be processed foods with a ton of sugar and fat in them, and they're not healthy either. So is this thing called common sense and and connecting the dots between, okay, I'm going to eat this. How do I feel eating this? Like, let's connect the dots between what we've eaten and what our energy is like after. Do we feel like, really bloated? Do we have to go to the washroom? Do we feel like falling asleep? Do we feel dumb? We can't concentrate with brain fog. Every individual needs to connect those dots. And, everybody eats. We do it several times a day, but most of us don't actually, think about what we're eating and how it affects us. So if we just get that top of mind awareness that, okay, I'm eating this, how do I feel now? And so sometimes it just takes a bit of time to say, you know what, I'm going to really pay attention to this. And you'll be so surprised what you'll discover.
Yeah, I talk to my clients and say, eat consciously. And they'll say, what do you mean? And I said, when you eat, enjoy it. Be aware of what you're eating. And then afterward, do a quick check and say, how do I feel?
Correct.
And a half hour, how do I feel? And if it's good and you have high energy, hey, that was a good meal. Remember it. If you're sluggish and tired, maybe you want to make some changes and just be aware of those things. A lot of times we eat on the run and then we mentally check out.
Yes.
And just push our body through it, usually through adrenaline to get through the next event.
Yeah.
And that also leads to the next crash and more stress. So
correct.
Be very, very, very aware of what you're eating and what it does to your body, because two different people are going to eat the same meal and have different effects from it. So that's
exactly.
why diets don't always work.
Yeah, it's really not a one size fits all. And so that's why, the way I'm working with clients now is really coming to a personalized approach, because, Mrs. Jones can eat this and Mrs. Smith can't. And Mrs. Smith can eat this and feel great, and Mrs. Jones needs to go lay on the couch. So the one size fits all or read it and eat it meal plans, while they may be good to give you a general idea of what you should be eating, we all are the boss of our own self. So we need to then, make choices based on what's good for us. And the only way we know what's good for us is to test and tweak and try it out. I'm going to eat this. Oh, I feel groggy. That's probably not a good choice. So it just takes a bit of time. Sometimes just working with someone to ask the right questions is, because otherwise, you just do it. You just eat, and it's like, well, but I got to go to work now. I've got to do this. So sometimes just having a coach holding up a mirror to ask the right questions, the client knows all the answers, but might not know what the question, not know how to ask themselves the right question. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does. It's not only, they may know it when they're out of the context of the situation. It's when they're in the context where they are in a point of making decisions that a coach can come into play and ask at that point,
correct,
what's a good choice? Because I go and say, yesterday I should have done this, and tomorrow it's in that moment when you make the decision to eat or not eat something that you really need the reinforcement from a coach to help them make that decision and be aware of it. Or if they make the bad decision, or let's put the less effective for their body decision, that they become aware of that and they can learn from it. And
correct.
It's accelerating that learning process, see cause and effect, as opposed to keep on repeating the same thing and then throwing up your arms saying, I don't know, I haven't changed what I've eaten and I don't get any results. And so that's where a coach can really pinpoint those things for them and give them a perspective that they haven't taken on their own.
Yeah. And everybody means well. Like nobody, for the most part, most people don't consciously self-sabotage, but it's very confusing out there. I don't blame women for saying, hey, I should look into this intermittent fasting or this keto, or what about this supplement or that supplement, because everybody is always bombarded with so much information. It really is hard to pick and choose what's right for you. And sometimes just that little bit of information is actually the most damaging, because, like I said, you get the idea that, hey, fat is good for you. So then you load up on the fat, but you miss the point that, hey, I got to cut back on the carbs, like significantly. And then there's, that's a road to disaster. You're not going to get any results. And then more frustration, even when people are making an effort. And I feel badly for those people. Like, I want to help those people to avoid that frustration. If they're putting in the time and the effort, I want them to get the results.
So there's usually two challenges in people that want to change their lifestyle and change their diet and their nutrition and fitness. And the first one is getting started.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge because there's always tomorrow.
Correct. Yes.
It's an unlimited tomorrow, so that's when I'll start. So how do you get women to start program?
Well, I think people get overwhelmed that, oh my gosh, I have to start exercise and I have to start eating this and going to bed early, and everything becomes so big. So I tell them to do the Choose Your Change challenge. This week, you're going to change one thing. Maybe it's something small. Maybe you're going to go to bed earlier. Maybe you're going to add a vegetable with every meal. Maybe you're going to add walking after dinner. and then just add on to that. So rather, it's kind of like the idea that you can eat the entire elephant, but only one bite at a time.
Okay.
So just making one small change, committing to it and sticking to it, and then adding to that. And I always come back to one of my superstar clients, Diane, who is almost 60, and she lost 50 pounds by cutting out sugar in her coffee. And it's like, is that all she did? No. But she started with cutting sugar out of her coffee. Then she changed her brand of yogurt. Then she added an extra workout to her week. So it was just a baby step. So these changes were easy to remember. She wasn't overwhelmed. She never felt, deprived. And then just over time, you just simply, add on to those, healthy changes. And she doesn't miss the sugar in her coffee. Well, maybe she does, but you know what I mean? It's not like she's seeing results from it. And it wasn't something huge. It's not like, okay, I'm going on the maple syrup, cayenne pepper, lemon diet. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like people try to change too much too soon. I'm going on a diet. I'm quitting smoking. I'm going on a budget. No wine, no gluten, no sugar. I'm starting on Monday. By Wednesday, they're ordering from Domino's with wine and smoking a cigarette.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, hopefully not, but that's in the extreme.
So now you get people started, and almost everybody hits a wall or faces an obstacle, and we know that because we look at the gyms in January, and they're packed, and then you go back in February and March, and they're half as many people. So
correct.
So what are the biggest obstacles women have in staying on a program, and how do you help them overcome them?
It's honestly, women are smart. Women are smart. But they need the accountability and support. So, a friend is great, but a friend does not ask the hard questions and hold your feet to the fire. So having a coach or someone that you're going to be accountable to that you do not want to disappoint does wonders because women will do anything for anybody else. They make all their kids' lunches. They do all the laundry for the family. They take care of their elderly parents. Do they take care of themselves? I often ask them, hey, you made lunches for everyone else in the family. What'd you make for you? Oh, nothing. Because they're taking care of others. So if you put in place someone that you don't want to disappoint, that you're going to be accountable to, it's kind of just like working with women's natural nature to not disappoint someone. So adding that piece of accountability and support is very important. And I find that is the key. And Phil, I've been doing digital programming for almost 10 years. And I feel like I've even done a disservice to my clients in thinking that while I've tried to build a better mousetrap with all my digital programs to, make them from PDF to follow along to better follow along videos, the key missing ingredient is having the person coach them through, make sure they're doing those videos, make sure that they're eating supportively so that the efforts that they're making during that exercise period is not lost as soon as they, start having breakfast. So it's the accountability and support that is so important. And that's what that's what gets Mrs. Jones from A to B, to C to D, to continually make progress.
It's really that continual progress that over time has the cumulative effect to create a better lifestyle.
Correct.
Rather than just a 30 day or 60 day. It's lots of little habits stacked on lots of other little habits. And, you need time for those to be incorporated into the real world and be tested in the real world with someone that can support you. Challenge you.
And you know what? Coaching doesn't have to be like, this huge investment month after month. It's like there is an investment in yourself, but it's not like it's a lot less than what people think. And the benefits are a lot more than what you can expect. And a lot of times, I'll talk to people and say, oh, it's really a bad time for me. I've got company, we're renovating. I have to get my finger operated on or whatever. They just have so much going on in their life. And kind of like your tagline, if not now, when? The fact is like there's never a better time than right now, because learning to manage your health in chaotic circumstances Well, that's what we want. We're not going to wait for calm water to learn how to sail through a storm. We need to be in the storm. And then those small little hacks are like, oh man, I sailed through that a lot easier because I got the tools to do it.
Okay. So you talked about, a time investment for coaching. How much time is involved if they're working with a coach?
Well, I mean, it depends on the circumstance. I talk to my clients every 7 to 10 days. They have unlimited email and text access to me, and you'd think that, oh my gosh, as a coach and you have lots of clients, how do you even manage that? Well, the fact is that, most people are not blowing up my phone and email day in and day out because I empower them with the tools that they need. I do, and my team does. So when you're working with me, sometimes you're working with me, sometimes you're working with some of my other coaches. But it's a 15-minute call every 7 to 10 days, and it's that check-in because I'm checking food logs. I'm how are you doing with your workouts? Like, it's that check-in, and it's the top of mind awareness that helps my clients, know and knowing that, hey, I'm at a restaurant. I'm not sure if I should have this or that. I'm just going to pop her a quick text. There you go. It's just all those little things. And so it's not a huge time investment. You don't have to travel for a weekend or, spend 6 hours on the phone with a coach necessarily. It's just because we just do small hacks every week. Okay, now we're going to address this. Okay, now let's look at that. So it's just slowly changing your lifestyle over time so that you never feel deprived. You never feel like, oh my God, when is this going to be over?
Okay. So you've been working with clients for a long time now. What would you say is the biggest lesson learned from your fitness career that you could share with my listeners who are like a lot of your clients? So they're over 50 and they're trying to deal with these, the menopause belly and the weight gain and getting on track again.
I think the biggest thing is giving yourself permission for self-care, because we're always at the back burner. And if women gave themselves 15 minutes a day for self-care, that might mean going for a walk. It might mean having a bath. It might mean going to bed a bit earlier and reading a book. It might mean doing food prep. It might mean doing a metabolic workout. But if you gave yourself 15 minutes a day for self-care, and that sounds like such a minuscule amount of time, but I can bet you that the majority of women that are kind of frazzled and feeling out of control in their life, they do not have 15 minutes of self-care. It starts with realizing that I am worth the self-care, and then, starting there. And then we start to implement the healthy changes within those 15 minutes that kind of then extend into the rest of the day.
And then as they recognize other things in their life that can change, it becomes easier and more manageable as opposed
Absolutely.
to
Yes.
The overwhelm that you talked about.
Correct. And so the first change is actually recognizing that I am worth this little bit of time. And so giving yourself, blocking off that time, 15 minutes, you can get a lot done in 15 minutes. You can do like an entire day's meal or, a couple of days meal prep in 15 minutes. You can, get a great workout in 15 minutes. You can feel rejuvenated with, maybe some meditation or like relaxed in a tub for 15 minutes. Sometimes that's what we need. And so that's why I like to work with my clients, because not necessarily like a metabolic workout, while it's good a lot of the time for someone that is so stressed, that's the last thing they need. They might need some meditation. They might need, they might need to walk their dog. I talked to one of my clients this morning. He said, well, I didn't get to my workouts this week. I'm so stressed. I'm like, are you walking your dog? Yes. I'm like, you're doing exactly what your body needs right now. So it's not always the one size fits all. It's not always, while I'm a big fan of metabolic workouts, they're great in their place.
And I guess there's a couple of takeaways for me, besides giving the permission, is taking the time to get in tune with your body and what is your body telling you, whether it be fatigue,
yes,
stress, food, hunger. Why am I eating? Am I really hungry? All those little questions that we start asking ourselves give us insights into what really makes us tick and what we really need to do to move on the path that we want. And
correct.
If we make a mistake or a quote unquote bad decision, we learn from it if we're aware. And
correct.
And we accept it and say, okay, I'm accountable for everything.
Yeah.
And so if I make a mistake, I'm accountable for that, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means that decision wasn't consistent with what goals I have.
My goals. Yeah. Yeah. And then course correct and move on rather than, I'm not about food shaming or, it's just like, okay, it happens. All right, let's move on. What do we learn from it? What can we apply next?
Great.
So it's kind of just an ever growing process of, of self-care and getting in tune with ourselves. And I feel like women over 40, it's just time for us. If we're moms, typically our kids are getting a little bit older and more independent. And there's a little bit of time on our schedule. And so let's use it to, life is not over and we don't need to go buy Crocs and stretchy pants. We can be feeling and looking great and doing a ton of new things. Life is just starting.
That's right. So no, if people want to get in contact with you, learn more about your programs, where should they go?
I have a free closed group on Facebook called Healthy Secrets for Women 40 Plus. And I do lots of Facebook Lives in there. So that's a really fun and interactive community of awesome women. I've got my blog, shawnak.com, and you'll find my podcast there. And I'm also on Instagram, just Shawna Kaminski. And so I'd love for people to find me on any of those platforms. And, from there, they can find other ways to connect with me.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you so much for sharing a simple yet very powerful message that, there is hope, there are options, and it's not something you have to do all at once, that it's something, it's a process that you're involved with, and that there are people that understand and that can help you and guide you down your journey. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure. And I have to say, I just love your work. I just, love the fact that you're encouraging people to, like age is just a number and let's just keep on.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Faris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.